Hey everybody. So here we are once again. And number one, Happy New Year. Let me just say that now. I know it's hard to believe that we're already in 2025, but we are here. And this is our first check-in with me and my good friend Charlie Red. I can see that one of our guests has already joined. So if you just hang out for a minute. But this is our first check-in with for 2025. I've got another guest that's just joined as well. Gents, I'm going to have you hang out for a couple of minutes, if you would, while I kind of intro what we got going on today. And so, again, hard to believe it's already January, but we're already here and kind of excited about this particular pod. As you can see, we've got two very handsome young men that are with us that I'm very, very proud to say are my sons.
Hello, hello.
And I was able to twist their arm and have them join. Again, we are going to have my good friend Charlie Red join as well as along with another special guest. But if I could, again, welcome to 2025. This being our first check-in with, again, very, very excited. Our topic that we're going to be covering today is going to be next generation. So we will be talking to the millennials that'll be joining us today versus us older Gen Xers. This should be fun. And I do have some things that I'm definitely going to want to cover today. So again, I'm looking forward to the interaction that we have, not just with our special guests, but I'm also looking for the interaction that we're going to be having in our chat. So again, please make sure that you join us, and it should be a good hour. So that being said, guys, give me a second here. Let me make sure that we've got uh, Chauncey hopefully is on the way, and Chuck, of course. I know that Chuck's probably going to join on the hour. That's normally what he likes to do. So, and that's okay too. We'll give it a minute here or so. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to take a moment because it's early enough that I can. And I'd like to be able to introduce my sons. So on the screen to my left, we have my son, Stephen, who's my oldest son. And to my right, we have Kenneth, who is my youngest son. Oh, you could go by Kenny, I forgot. Make sure I'm saying the right thing here. So, but I call them Steve-O and Kenny or Kenneth or whatever. So, but again, I appreciate you guys jumping on this morning. And I know it's early for you, Lover, because you are in California. But again, appreciate you for jumping on. Hopefully you
Of
guys
course.
are ready to jump straight in and have a whole bunch of conversation over the next hour. We're really pressing in on you because, as I had said before, you all are the next generation. So I'm curious to see how this is going to work out. Bam! There's your
Bam!
godfather. Chuck Boogie. What's going on, C Boogie?
T Money Mason.
Hey. Is Chauncey going to try to join us on a different screen, you
Yeah.
think? Okay. Okay. Let's see how this is going to look once we have 5 people. We haven't had 4. Well, maybe we had 4 once before, but not 5. So I can't wait to see how this is going to look.
Yeah, when
Uh,
we did the girls.
Absolutely. Chuck, I was just setting it up, just talking about this being the very first podcast that we're having. You know how much I love calling it a podcast. But anyway, first Facebook Live that we're having with the check-in with. And we've got some very special guests today. Obviously, we've got both of your
I
godsons,
know.
Stephen and Kenny, as well as we've got Chauncey coming back to make yet another appearance. So I'm excited about that.
I'm
Um,
leaning on the veteran.
you're doing what?
I'm leaning on the veteran. Leaning on the okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, but with that being said, Chuck, what would you like to kind of lead in with? Again, I'm just talking about this being not just our first podcast, but it was important for us to have a next generation conversation because, as I had said earlier, you guys are the next ones up. You know, I was talking to Steve earlier and I was saying, listen, you guys are literally going to be us in the next 10, 15, 10, 20 years, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
What do you all want this world to look like? Because y'all are the next ones
Yep.
up. So with that being said, Chuck, is there anything in specific that you'd like to lead in with while we wait for Chauncey? I'm going to look and see if there's anything that I can do to get him in here. I don't think so, but just wanted to double check and see.
No. I think you hit another home run, T Money Mason. This is another. I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's good. It's
Absolutely.
good to see the fellas. You know, so I'm right there. I'm Likewise. already overjoyed. That's a win for
Amen,
me right
amen.
there.
Amen, amen. Okay, I see that Chauncey was looking. He's watching. So I'm going to see. You may have to request to join, just in case, Chauncey. So if you look, I think down at the bottom left somewhere, you can request to join. And once we get it, I'll try to pull you in from there. Okay. Well, with that then, Chuck, why don't we go ahead and get started? And again, as Chauncey joins, then, same thing. We'll go from there. Some of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about today, one of them being, as I said, what do you all imagine that this world is going to look like for you in the next 10, 20 years? What would you like to see? Now, I know that's very broad,
That's
but it's
very
broad for
broad.
a
Yeah.
reason. But it's broad for a reason because you all have things that you'd like to see. I mean, you know what the world looks like today, being that both of you are in your 30s, and the world has changed since the two of you got started, here in the past 15, 20 years and being adults. But is there anything in particular that you all have identified? Because I have some questions, but is there anything in particular that you all have identified that you'd like to see by the time you get to be 40, 45, 50 years old in this world? Because as I mentioned, Charlie and I are already in our 50s and we've seen a lot that's changed. So is there anything in particular you would like to see slightly different in this world or imagine this world looking like?
Yeah, actually, I do. I would love to see prices go down and everything. That'd be great, for sure. Inflation has definitely been ridiculous, especially, as a 30-year-old, I wanted to buy a house one day. So I'm like, I can't afford a house. As of not as of yet, for sure. So definitely something I wanted to, I hope will go down,
Okay.
as we get older, of course, in our
Okay.
generation.
Okay. I like the sounds of it.
Mhm.
What about you, Lovin?
Hmm.
I know that's a little
I'm like, where do I?
question for
Yeah,
you.
I'm like, where do I begin?
Or wherever you'd like
Yeah.
to. And as you're doing that,
Oh,
Chauncey,
we'll
give me
start.
1 second. Give me 1 second, Kenneth. 1 second. I apologize. Just want to speak to Chauncey real quick. It's saying something to him, Chuck, and I don't know if he's close enough for you to help him, but there's got to be a way that he could add, and I don't know if you can show him the where it is he can add himself or
Well,
request.
I just told him to come on up to the room, and
Okay.
we'll just.
Okay, that'll work. And I'm sorry, Kenneth. Go ahead,
Okay.
please. Go ahead.
I think that in this new age, getting more comfortable with digital literacy will be really interesting as we move, as we lean so much on the advancements of technology. I think that if this being a social media platform, for example, and also discussions on how information is passed around, if it's a way for it to be not synonymous, but to some degree like filtered and or properly channeled, I think a lot of that has to do with outlets in which we receive information. So really it's just the democratic the democratic like way that we receive information, and but more importantly like what we do with that information. And also just back to validity at the end of the day. I think that's a large part of one of the things I'd like to see is us being more digitally and socially literate.
Literally. Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
Nice.
Okay. Okay. Um,
that's one
I
of
like
them.
where you were going with that. And I'm going to come back to it for a second. I'm going to take a minute to acknowledge our brother Chauncey Red. What's going
Hey, how
on,
are y'all
C
doing this morning
Red?
or afternoon?
Oh,
Hey,
good, brother.
Sir,
Good,
sir,
good.
how are you?
I'm great.
So just really quickly, again, I want to be able to let everyone know that this is the check-in. And, I'm going to say that repeatedly throughout this chat. And this is our first check-in for January 2025. Can you even believe that we're here? Today, we're having a really important conversation with the next generation that is behind us, Gen Xers. So these are the millennials that we are talking to today and really getting their perspective on what they'd like to see happen in the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years as they go through their soon-to-be 40s and 50s, because it's coming, whether they like it or not, versus what us Gen Xers have already experienced, and just maybe some pearls of wisdom that we can continue to give. And again, as you're looking at the screen to your top right, that is my oldest son, Stephen. Call him Steve-O.
Steve-O!
To the bottom left, to the bottom left is my youngest son, Kenny. And then to the bottom right, we've got our brother Chauncey, as well as his father, my good friend Charlie Red. So that being said, this is the check-in. And again, I'd like to thank each of you for jumping on. Kenneth, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, can you pull the camera slightly closer to you, baby doll? Slightly closer. Like to be able to get my beautiful face in there, but yeah, it's just a little bit close. Thank you very much, my love. All right. Okay, so that being said, we started out asking what we'd liked for, or what you all would like to see. Chauncey, I'd like to give you an opportunity to be able to answer that question too. I know you're not 30 quite yet, correct? You're 28 or 29, something like that?
28,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Don't look at that. Look at them manners. Yes, ma'am. All right now.
Good on you, man.
Look,
Good
I
on
know
you.
your father. He better have taught you that. And look, I knew your grandma and your grandpa. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Absolutely.
But what would you like to see you going into your 30s over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years as a millennial? What do you imagine seeing this world looking like for you? Or what changes would you like to see?
Well, as I believe I heard Stephen say earlier when I was listening, when I was trying to join, I would definitely like to see prices go down. I want to see cryptocurrency kind of become a new leader in how we make transactions with each other. I think it's really important. I think blockchain is really important as far as like, because our government can do a lot of little shady things, and blockchain kind of like makes the transactions more transparent. Everything's easy to track. Let's see. I believe that aviation and like flying and all that stuff is gonna like take off, more air traffic. That's really about it. I mean, like I said, I'm here with my dad now because I'm 28. I'm kind of like in the cusp of like millennials and Gen Z. So I'm a lot. I'm more willing to take more risk, which is why I'm kind of here with my parents now, because they're kind of things are just, the wages haven't gone up. So I'd like to see, even if prices can't come down, I'd like to see some wages go up, just to be able to compensate people's efforts and, keep the standard of living the way it is, instead of, people really having to fight to get what they deserve just to live life. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. I think, especially like piggybacking off what even Steven said, how we talk about wages and how we talk about salaries, like within each generation, it's a cyclical conversation as far as like the actual salary amounts go as far as, but not the cost of living and the economy in that regard. So it's really funny like having those conversations with older generations, and they're always comparing, because that's how you tether yourself to the youth and how you want to sort of be empathetic towards another generation. But those conversations being like, back in my day, or why are you complaining so much about the wages? Back in my day, I was making XYZ amounts of dollars, when in reality it was 5 cents for a cheeseburger. So those are always really interesting, and I don't think that they're as fully thought out arguments. But I also think that's just because there is such a lack of information being told to, or like pretty much with each generation. So, my information will be different than yours because my perspective is different than yours. So the way in which you will receive said information will be vastly different because they're different lived experiences. But at the exact same time, we'll both be at 30 at some point, or we're both in our 30s or have lived 30 years. So that's one of the really interesting things, is like, yeah, that's one of the really interesting things, I'd say.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying in terms of context, again, in preparation for today's conversation, I know we were going to open it up to you guys so we could see how your perspective on the world is versus ours. One of the beautiful things about, again, Tanya's brainchild of putting together, this conversation is, we're able to look at how we grew up and the similarities. And so it really just kind of highlights certain things. So I just look back. So 1901 and 1927 was they called the greatest generation. 1928 to 1945 was the silent generation. Well, these were basically people who were born in the Great Depression. And that's where my parents were. They were members of that particular generation, which I believe influenced the way that they raised me, because they grew up in an era of scarcity. So with that, there was a lot more demand that was placed on me. And Chauncey and I, we had this conversation because one of the things he said several years ago is that, to his mom and myself, is that, your guys' lives are boring. Well, the response to that is that, yes, we get up, we go to work, etc. We do these things that we have to do to allow you as our children to be able to dream. So we have to lay the foundation to allow our children the opportunity to be able to come up with and even have these conversations that we're having today. If it was not for us punching that clock, you guys would not have the opportunity to explore and expand your horizons. So that's my direct response. Baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. And that's what happened now. The baby boomers are retiring. Generation X, which is the generation Tanya and I in, 1965 to 1980. The millennials, 1981 to 1996, which he like to say hits the cusp. Gen Z's, 1997 to 2012, and then they went on to Generation Alpha. But the other thing Tanya sent me too was basically just the comparison even between, Generation X and millennials. And that's really the conversation that we're having today that we're wanting to pull from you guys. And we do appreciate your ability to articulate. So that makes me proud, first of all. But you guys are a lot more progressive in terms of your political views. Again, we grew up in an era where things were pretty much very, very standard. Didn't have social media like you guys are exposed to today. You're less religious. That's, I thought, was very, very interesting when I read that. You guys are definitely less religious. Willing to take a pay cut to pursue a career path. And that goes back to what I was saying, is that we had to lay the foundation to allow you guys to dream. You value more of a work-life balance. Well, we didn't have that opportunity. We pretty much were programmed to do, and that's how you were measured in terms of success. And then the volunteering. So one of the things that I actually have a conversation with him about, again, to piggyback what I just said, is that we had to lay that foundation just like our parents had to lay the foundation for us. I think the difference with our generation, we kind of did you guys a disservice a little bit. So I'll go ahead and apologize. And I started to put that in my book, Punk A Parents. I'm not going to curse.
I forgive you.
The way we were raised, having to vacuum the house, make sure the lines lined up, cut the front yard, etc. You guys didn't have to do that. And so because we were raised in the manner in which we were raised, we basically made it easier for you. But sometimes making it easier for you actually hurts you.
Well, I'm gonna pause that for half a second, because I looked at both Stephen and Kenneth's face.
Mm-hmm. And what
See that dumb look on their face?
Yeah.
Okay, so that dumb expression is indicative of, nah, she had us out there doing all kinds of stuff and blah, 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 blah. I already know how my son thinks, Chauncey. Pay no attention to them, Chauncey. I'm just saying.
I would agree with you. I would say that we are old souls.
Things were relaxed, yes.
Now,
Fine, right?
again, this will be my probably last contribution until hopefully later on. But the thing about it is that everything, even for the context of this conversation, there's no absolutes, okay? There are absolutely no absolutes. We are all influenced by the parents that we had, the parenting styles, the mentalities, etc. So there's no absolutes. We're looking at this as terms of stereotypical, but there are absolutely no absolutes.
Yeah.
I get that.
Let me go back for a second. And Chuck, don't get me wrong, I'm appreciative that you read the list I sent you, but I was going to pose these questions to each of them. Let's jump in, because we were talking about pay. Stephen, you were talking specifically about housing prices and price gouging, and the one thing that I think that all of us should strive to be is a homeowner at some point, to some type of degree, whatever that looks like for each of you. Obviously, Charlie and I have been able to be homeowners on multiple occasions, so we can speak to that, albeit that we may have not have done it at you all's age. It may have happened a little later, but that's something that we all, I think, it was kind of part of that American dream that we all bought into. But pricing, in terms of homes and lowering and all of that, I know that's very important, because all three of you have said that. So I want to come back to that for a second, but the point that I want to make on one of the questions that I had that Charlie had just referenced was the willingness to take a pay cut. And when I saw this, I said, this reminds me of Kenneth. So it says that you all are willing to take a pay cut to pursue your career path, aligned with your passions and your values. I'd like to sit on that for a minute, because that to me is a direct correlation to your ability to be able to own a home. If you're willing to potentially take a pay cut for your own happiness, because money doesn't always equate happiness. Okay, but I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah.
I want to know what your generation thinks. So if I could, can I start with Kenneth, and then I'm going to work my way back around. So Kenneth, what are your thoughts on that? I know you got some. You're my baby, so I know you got some.
You're not wrong.
Yes.
I think as far as pay cut goes, it's out of our control. It's not like, yeah, of course I would love to take less money for this dream job. I would rather the dream job pay enough for me to actually have the static nuclear lifestyle that the previous generations were able to have. But that's just not possible. So honestly, that kind of encapsulates all of it. There is that there's different ideologies on life because the standard is different, and also it's, yeah, I think that's a large part of it, is like it's different ideologies, it's different standards of life, it's different ways of living, and jobs are trying to keep up with generations as they sort of age.
That's fair.
And I don't mean just like employers, but I also mean companies, and I mean like HR policies. It's really all just like, to some degree it's generational. It's just a constant changing, but our generation just happens to receive change at a rapid pace. So
Yes.
that's
But
a
are
large
you
part of it. Go ahead.
but are you willing to accept the change? And I'll throw that in there as, let that be a caveat. Although you're saying
I
you're
think
getting.
well, it
Hold on, Chuck.
depends. It depends.
That's
a really good question. I think it depends because, okay, we'll go, if we're talking about work and the standard, let's talk about education that leads people to different fields. And so if we're doing what we were told to do of going to college and you'll receive this pay, that is likely not the case.
That's it.
But that's part one.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's like traditional, go get your 4 years,
we all
get a
heard
degree.
it. Yep.
Yeah,
Everybody
get your
on this
bachelor's.
call has heard
That's
that.
the standard.
Yep.
In every job application, that's normally the standard as well.
Absolutely.
However, if I go to vocational school or if I go to trade school, I will make more money sooner rather than later, and I will likely join a union.
Because it's specialized.
It's specialized. And, well, I mean, funny enough, like if college has majors, aren't those majors specialization to some degree?
No, I can't say that, because to
Well,
me that's that. But
no,
I hear what you're saying.
I agree.
Yes.
But at that point, then why am I? Yeah, that's really it. It's like, okay, if education is supposed to be specialized, why are we not having specialized finances to support those pursuits? So we'll go from traditional bachelor's to vocational to just getting your associates. And then from there, we'll also go to having 3 to 5 years experience in an entry-level job. Or for an entry-level job, And that pay is always, because entry-level, the pay is the lowest, of course. When in reality, like, an intern is doing entry-level work, So it's not as though we want to do these things. It's just, that's what we've been told. That's what a lot of us, either who decide to become business owners, are leaning away from, which I think you're seeing that that's a large part of our generation's mentality is entrepreneurship and individualism. And that's all for the better, but that's because our backs are against the wall and it's cost money to even have said wall.
Well, let me hold on real quick, Chuck. Hold on, Chuck, real quick, Kenneth. The one thing that you said, and all of that, you said some wonderful things. Okay, when you talk about being an entrepreneur, Chuck said it earlier. Your parents, and in this case me, have afforded you a lifestyle that you could live that dream. Because if by chance something went awry and you were no longer able to have said business, you know, you can press back into me.
Right. But that's not the case for everyone.
No.
I,
But I'm saying,
me in
I feel
particular,
like
I happen to
y'all
be
generation
lucky
has
enough.
that in common. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
They
That
do.
yeah,
But they do. And one thing that Kenneth said,
Yeah.
though, and I agree, because I had to, their generation doesn't just take the answer for the answer. They challenge it.
I love that.
And,
Right.
and
I think our
and that's
generation
that was brilliant
go
when he
ahead.
said that, because he's so very, very true. Us, Tanya, we took what we heard and just ran with it and applied it. Our
Right.
parents were even more into that. They were
Sheepish.
told it, so they stayed on the job for 30 years. I mean, they took what they was told and they did it. We kind of got a little bit of that. We challenged this a little bit, but not as much.
Right.
This generation now, with social media, with all the platforms that are out there, with all the information that's out there, you just can't tell them 1 + 1 is 2. And that's
Right.
probably why also that leads to, again, one of the statistics that says that generation is less religious.
Fair.
It's not, you know, God said, so therefore I believe. They're like, no,
Yeah.
we're going to question it. So
I think, yeah.
So what he said was so absolutely true. You guys are doing the thing to kind of challenge the status
Mhm.
quo. You don't
Yeah.
just take the answer for the answer.
I
That was a brilliant
I think that's a large
point.
part of it is like, again, I think our generation is one of the, I mean, if we're talking about it in terms of like traditional education, I think our generation is one of the last to value critical thinking and or make
Yeah.
it a mainstay. And
Well, but you have the opportunity to utilize critical thinking. Chuck just said it. We were sheepish.
yeah, no,
You
I'm
know,
saying like
because we were
us
told
in
what to do.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for
I like it.
us, our curriculum required us to use critical thinking.
Fair.
And you know, you say that about every education, but I mean like ours there's more of a I think a lot more of the majors and education for our generation leaned into philosophy to some degree, and literature, and that really afforded us to like think in a very humane way.
Okay.
So that's why I always bring up like social, digital,
Sure.
and yeah, pretty
Sure.
much like literacy,
Okay.
and the need for that, and the misuse of information. But for the most part, yeah, I think our generation was bucking the status quo because it hasn't worked for us so far. So why would I believe like a lie that's been told to me and I'm watching it in real time, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like
Absolutely. Absolutely.
your
Yeah.
generation, and unfortunately, your generation probably this sounds terrible.
Say it.
Your
Say it. It's a
generation
discussion. Say it.
probably birthed the most snake oils
No, I don't know
salesmen.
about that.
No,
I don't know about that, baby.
maybe not birth is the right word, but I think that you guys were recipients of
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
effects of the most snake oil salesmen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, I think your generation I think that's also why our generation received like the need for critical thinking and to buck what is being told
Sure.
to you for that exact reason.
Yeah. But remember, you're
Sorry.
afforded that opportunity. That's the key. But I'm going to stop there for just half a
Yes.
second, baby. Let me jump to Chauncey because I'm sure that you've got some information to input as well.
For sure. I think the reason why, you know, we are more focused on the critical thinking aspect is because we can empathize with the prior generations and the risks that had to be taken, you know, the actual grit that had to go into, you know, the rewards that you receive. Like I said, we went from having to go to a library, or not me personally, but my generation, we have Google. And then now my son's generation has AI. So it went from having to go to the library and actually look things up to us having to type things into Google to look them up, to now being able to just verbally ask AI what something is and it tells you. So I think the actual grit, the hard work is being lost by generation to generation. But I think in that, a lot of opportunity is born because, I mean, social media is around. All of these like technologically advanced movements that are happening, just more open thinking. Like that's kind of, we're in the era of like more open thinking because even social media like just shows us that anything is possible.
Now, let me not cut you off. But with that, then this is one of the things that I've noticed also. with that, we understand that there is only one Bill Gates, there's only one Michael Jordan, etc. Your generation believes that that's the norm, not the exception.
Yeah.
So I understand that, you know, anybody can do anything. Our generation was like, yeah, anybody could do anything, but within reason, within context.
Right.
Because you guys have been exposed to so much information and so much opportunity.
Yeah.
You guys believe everybody can do it. And that is a lie. And that's why I go back to what Kenneth was saying, is that he didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
I think that's a large part of it. I think our resources are vastly different. I think our hardships are different as well. I never try and compare generations based on their hardships like entirely, because I'm not going to base your whole identity off how difficult your life was, because then I feel like it would be, the smiles on your face will be kind of a wash. But at the same time, with the advancements of technology means that there is more work, of course, but I think part of that too has to do with like population as well. I think rather than like just being US citizens, I think we're also global citizens.
Absolutely.
And that is like, and a good example of that is like remote work, or a large part of it is you could have international people doing your work and vice versa, you know?
Yep. Yep.
Or you see companies that are based outside of the US that happen to have most of their offices in the US.
Mhm.
So thinking of it in terms of like being a global citizen, I think that really helps you understand like why hardships are different is because we have a more democratic approach. And really, yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
part of that too is just, you know, the world, like the US is becoming more international. And what I mean by that is just, yeah, that's really it.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna jump to Steve-O here real quick. Steve-O, what you think?
Back of what Kenny said about, you know, the international positions itself, you know, it's a good thing for the opportunity for other, you know, nations to help out and everything. But what about the people in the US that are losing the jobs? You got to be empathetic with them too, you know? So I've seen it happen before where people, they're like, hey, my position's gone. And they get transferred. The position gets, you know, goes to a different country.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of a job. You know, what are you supposed to do then?
Well, it's economics.
Mhm.
Exactly it, right?
And as you say that, Jojo, let me throw this in there too, because Chauncey brought up AI, and that was one of the things. Look, I promise you, it's I have it. What do we now do? Let's use Amazon as an example. What do we do when all these Amazon employees went on strike? They said, okay, that's fine. We're gonna have these robots come in and do the work of you. We have 3 robots that can do 20 of y'all's work. So to me, that bolds to what you're talking about, Stephen. But please go ahead.
It does. That's really about it, unfortunately, you know, because you got to think about it. You know, it's give and take.
Yeah.
Right? You want to take so much, but you're not willing to give.
Absolutely.
You're stuck in this
Absolutely.
case. So,
and with that,
unfortunate.
Imagine us talking about you all taking a pay cut, because that's how we started in on this. Are you willing to take the pay cut just for the job? Are you really?
I've done it. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I think we
When
all have, but y'all, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, no. But when I was younger, yeah, when I sold cars, I would, you know, work hellacious hours every week, and I just didn't have a life. You know, that's where the work-life balance came into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to, you know, sacrifice myself. I'm like, you know what? I'll take the pay cut just to have a work-life balance itself. So that's definitely one of the things, and I definitely think that I want altogether. That's why I'm like, I don't do what I do. Sell cars. I'm without it.
And let's talk about it, because that was on my list as well. So can you tell I've had some pre-conversation? And before we go any further, let me just remind everybody that this is the check-in for January. Again, this is the monthly Facebook chat that my good friend Charlie Red and I have. This month in particular, we are talking about next generation. So we're having a conversation with some millennials, as well as millennial versus the Gen Xers, which that would be Charlie and I would be that cohort. But let me once again the quick introduction. From the right of me at the top would be my oldest son Stephen. To the bottom underneath me would be my youngest son Kenneth, and then to the bottom right would be our brother Chauncey Red, who has made an appearance here on the check-in before, and of course my brother Charlie Red, his dad. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about work-life balance, because I know that's important. At least for I would say, Charlie, for you and I, it's important because of the fact that we feel like we grind. We need some time just to walk away sometimes. Doesn't mean we're afforded that opportunity, but I would like to know what you all's thoughts are about having work-life balance, the importance of it. And Stephen, since you had kind of led in with that, do you have some additional thoughts on the importance of it? And again, how much of that would you like to see continue on in the next 20 years for you? And I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would love to increase, actually. So my work-life balance is good as of right now. I work 8 hours a week, 8 hours a day, excuse me.
I'm like a
But
week,
yeah,
wait.
yeah, that's not bad
Damn, bro.
enough.
Right.
But
I
I would
was like, what
love,
do you mean are you talking about your work hours go up? What the hell?
I would love, to have more vacation opportunities, more time to, live my life because you only have one life to live. I don't want to be involved at work all the time. And just me wither away. I don't want that kind of thing. I want
Absolutely.
to live while I'm here. So that's what I think. That's work life definitely needs to be more.
Absolutely.
I think companies should
Mhm,
think about that too, because we're not robots.
mhm, mhm.
We're here to help the company improve, but and also get paid. Of course, that's number one. But
Mhm.
we got to do more.
Well, but imagine, and I used that conversation about the whole Amazon strike thing recently, because that's something that I feel like people are looking at saying, hey, look, if they're going to go on strike, I need a job, so I'll come get it. But Amazon said, no, that's okay. We're going to have these robots come in and do the work for you. So doesn't that affect your ability to say, you know what? Maybe I will take a lesser paying job just so that way I can have, number one, a job, maybe less benefits. Obviously, the pay isn't as much, but at least I have a job, and I could have a job that I could walk away from to have this work-life balance. So, what moving forward, I mean, are you okay with that? With robots being as prevalent as they are, or like you said,
No,
taking jobs? Okay, okay.
no, not in this case. There's a million jobs out there. There really is. So I can find something somewhere. It doesn't matter the case.
Even if
All I know
it's
is,
for less pay?
yeah, I could definitely find it. I will find a job that fits what I'm looking for.
Okay, okay,
So if that's the last resort, is trying to
okay.
find a job where you're like, I'll take less.
Now,
I'm not about to sacrifice
for the
myself.
three of you, I want you to hear what it is that Stephen is saying, because Charlie and I are listening to you guys saying, but you have to understand, from our generation, you three are afforded an opportunity to have this mentality, whereas we maybe did not. I can tell you, and I know we haven't talked a lot of our generation, but I can tell you that the thought process when Charlie and I graduated was, you're either going to college, like Kenneth said, you're going to college, or in Charlie's case, you're going to the military, right? Or in my case, you're getting married. Those were the three options. Kenneth, don't start that. This is the pod. We're not going to do that. But now you understand why I said it to you. Anyway, that's a little
Okay,
different story
all
for a
right.
different
Just make
day.
This
sure.
is
Okay,
But
this is very
this is
interesting.
interesting, right?
but
This
We'll
is
but
have
I
an
want you guys
offline
to
conversation
uh,
soon enough.
we'll talk
deja
about it
vu.
later.
I
We'll
swear.
talk about it later.
Okay,
But I want you to
okay.
understand
Because
where that
afforded
came from.
opportunities.
Let me
Yes.
just go ahead and finish the thought.
Proceed.
But I want you guys to understand that's a part of how we were raised. So in Stephen and Kenneth's case, that's why you heard it come from me, because that's how I was raised. It was, you're going to either do this, or this. That's it. But you all are afforded an opportunity to be able to have this mentality of, I will find a job that pays me X, Y, Z. You don't have the same concerns as necessarily about that lull where you maybe don't have a job as maybe we did, because you can press in to us, to our generation. You still have parents that are around that you could press into if you needed to. But I want to make sure the three of you really, I'm not saying you don't get it, but understand that as you're talking, you do have parents in this generation that you can press into while you're looking for that job that you were talking about, Steve-O. And again, I'm not saying to not, I'm saying that we welcome you all having the creativity, being creatives. We weren't afforded that opportunity. Like I said, it was 1, 2, 3,
Hmm.
college, military, get married. That's it. We had no other options. That was it. You all, laissez-faire. You all could do the things, footloose and fancy free, but we didn't have that. So I want to say that. Stephen, did you have some more you wanted to input? I apologize, babe.
No, that's okay. That's
Okay.
gonna be the gist of what I had to say.
Okay, that's fair. Chauncey, can I come down to you, brother?
Sure.
Please.
So basically, what are we talking about again? Look, I didn't get the
Work-life balance.
that's the attention span thing from my, Gen Z.
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me personally, it's kind of a vicious cycle because I would say me personally, I'm willing to take the pay cut for happiness. That's kind of why I like pursue entrepreneurship, because I don't want to be working for the man. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather work for myself and know that the
Wait,
hard
hold
work
on,
I put
Shelby.
in.
Who's the man for you? I'm just curious. Who do millennials consider to be the man? I'm just curious.
I would
Don't
just
be
say
so specific, but you know what I mean.
corporate America, yeah,
Okay.
organization of the government. I feel like there's a lot of mistrust
Yes.
there between the people on the ground and like the people that are higher up. I think there's a lot of mistrust in our the people that are above us. But I've worked jobs that didn't pay anything, but then it's like you're happy until you're not happy because you don't have enough money to pay for your essentials like necessities. So it's that's why I said it's a vicious cycle, because you can be happy for a moment, but then the rent is still due first. You still got bills due, and so it's like you're happy until the bills. So you still have to make the money. So the work-life balance part would be having a job that pays just enough to where you can still be happy, but then still cover all of your basics as well. So
Boy, isn't that just the way to live?
Sword.
Oh, that's
It
such
really
a
is.
way to live. It's just so nice to have that kind of freedom now, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. My love, what do you have to say, Kenneth? Oh, I know you got stuff.
No, I think they really covered
Okay.
it.
Okay. Fair.
I think the only difference is like we're all in different fields, so work-life balance will look vastly different.
Yeah.
But generically, or at least like that encapsulates all of what work-life balance should be. I think they covered it pretty well.
Okay. Okay. Chuck, what do you have from the from the old folks crew, from the Xers? What you got, Chuck?
I think the fundamental difference is, and one of the things I discovered between even our culture and the African culture, as been pursuing that, writing that book for like 20 years.
Longer.
Yeah, culture of irresponsibility, conversations with Mr. Chu. So I put that out there in case it comes out. You guys heard it first. This is a way to kind of tag it.
Well, let me sidebar. He's been talking about this book for 25 years. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I love that you plugged it in right there.
Because
You know,
it's been a writing in progress, because one of the things I learned from the new generation is to continue to learn.
Absolutely.
Okay, in that balance of questioning the status quo versus sometimes you just got to do what you have to do. So the other thing that I want to mention in that is the difference between delayed gratification and the generation coming up now are looking for immediate gratification.
Popcorn society. Microwave.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. Participation trophy generation. We didn't get a trophy because we participated. You were either the offensive captain, or you were either the best person on defense. You didn't just get a trophy just because you're on the team. Now, if the team won, yeah, everybody got a trophy. But you weren't singled out just because you were on the team. And so that type of lie that's being told to these kids now, that all you have to do is show up and it's okay.
But do you
That's not
think
how society operates.
Do you think that just, and please bear in mind, guys, Kim, stop laughing. Do you feel like, Chuck, that that's something that our generation put in place for our kids, obviously, because of the pressures that we went through, that we wanted to make it easier for them just to be able to say, hey, listen, being number one isn't important. It's the fact that you participated.
Absolutely.
Time out, both of you.
What,
Okay. First of all, we never got any participation trophies.
yeah, this is
whatsoever.
slander.
If you got a trophy, it's because you were a winner. That's it.
But
Our generation.
But bear in mind,
received that
Stephen,
kind of thing.
this is not absolute. Bear that in mind. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just speaking upon us though.
Well,
Like
the two of you is different because I'm your mother, so it's different. But
wouldn't every parent say that though?
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
kidding.
like, no.
I'm kidding. No, but I hear what you're saying.
It's not personally directed towards your particular generation. It's just now that for us, the old heads, and what we're seeing now, even in the workforce.
Okay.
People are just showing up saying, I'm here, pay me. And you're like, okay, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Like, no, I don't need you to do X, Y, and Z, but I do need you to pay me. So that's the difference that, the that we're seeing now with the people coming up, even behind you, maybe General
Yeah.
Z, Alpha.
Find us.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Exactly
it's no absolutes, but yeah, it's immediate gratification versus delayed. And I think with this economy, you guys are being indoctrinated, or you guys are being forced to get into delayed gratification. Going back to your regular point about I would love to buy a house, I
Yeah.
can't right now. You're being forced to have to make that adjustment.
Absolutely.
I kind of get what you mean.
Mhm.
I kind of
Yeah.
get what you mean. If we're talking about in
that makes
terms of
sense.
work, I do think
Okay,
depending
Amy.
on the field that you're in, like it differs where instant gratification is it's maybe prominent, but it doesn't mean anything versus the delayed gratification. But the delay is really, how long is it delayed for?
Mhm.
Like, how long
Well,
will I wait?
but this is
You know what I
what you
mean?
have to think about. This is what you have to think about, Lover. I think that the difference between Chuck and our generation, since he and I are born a day apart, okay, just in case anyone didn't know that. But anyway, most people know that. But anyway, the difference between our generation and you all's, we were raised to wait for it. He had mentioned earlier, your grandparents' generation, the three of you, your grandparents' generation worked a job 20 years, became fully vested, had a retirement. We were raised with that information. You all are sitting back saying, and I had a gal in HR tell me this years ago when I worked in Riverside. A lot of people, not my generation, but the ones behind us, right, were coming in and working a job for 3 or 4 years and then skipping, or if that long, 2 years and skipping off to the next job because it wasn't about working long enough to have a retirement. It was about getting experience and going on to the next and getting experience and going. It's the instant gratification versus we sat back and said, nope, we were told, remember, sheepish, we were told you have to work 20 years and then you get a retirement and you get a pension, blah. That's how we were raised. But that's the difference.
Yeah.
You all have bucked the system. You have asked the questions, whereas we sat back and said, well, but my dad, in this case, well, Charlie will understand this, my dad worked at Kaiser Steel in Fontana for 25 years and he retired and he also was able to work a little part-time job and blah, 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 blah. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what I saw him do. That's what I'm going to do. And what I'm saying is that our generation should challenge you all to say what you've all have just said. Don't just take what we're saying for face value. Buck that system, ask questions. Don't just take it just because we said it, because just because we said it doesn't make it so. Although that's how we felt. Our parents said it, therefore it was so.
Well, we needed, Tony, we also needed, and our parents really needed the system to be able to provide that safety net.
Sure,
And so
absolutely.
that's why you did that.
Yeah.
There is no safety net
Not
now.
anymore.
So so your loyalty was rewarded with that.
Right.
Now there is no loyalty. It's all about corporate profits.
Yes.
That's
so
what I'm
therefore,
getting at.
there's
That's
no
why,
reason to
like,
be loyal.
the delay.
And then now you guys can invest your
promotion.
own money in your own
Absolutely.
401k or
Absolutely.
Acorn or
Yes.
Bitcoin. So you don't need an entity to invest for
Absolutely.
you. So then therefore I need to make more so I can invest more myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Isn't
we're in
it
the middle
something?
of that, Tanya.
Yeah, it's
We're
well,
in the
yeah.
middle between, again, our parents doing that and living very well. My mom made twice as much in her retirement as I am working.
Scary. Or even better, because I know that I've had a conversation. I want to say I've had it with the two of you about Social Security. I'm like, you do realize that your grandmother's spending my money right now. And when I turn whatever age I decide to retire, I'm going to spend every dime of y'all's money. I'm going to live good off of y'all two's backs for a while.
And we'll have nothing.
No. Because if you decide to have children, then you're going to do the same thing. That's just the way the system's set up. But let me stop for a second because this has to do with politics. And we don't normally go too far with political conversation here. But I would like to jump back to one of the items that I had as a talking point. And Chuck mentioned it earlier, you all have you're progressive in your political views and voting habits. Now, all of you are of age now to have voted at least in 2 cycles, maybe even 3, if I think about it, at least 2. What do you think about that? I mean, because again, you all see things differently than we do, but you all have different expectations than we have and different needs than we have. So what do you think in terms of your political beliefs and your freedoms to be able to have the beliefs that you have politically. And if I could, because Kenneth, I ended with you, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to jump to Stephen. I'm going to come down to Chauncey. So Kenneth, please. And Chuck, just know this
Dang,
is going to be
I
longer than an
wasn't ready
hour. I'm just
yet.
letting you know. I'm letting you know in advance. Go ahead, Kenneth.
I gotta hop in 7, but
Okay.
dang, I wish I had this beforehand. I'm like, you guys are gonna throw me on the spot with this.
Actually, you know what? We'll do a part 2. How's that? We'll come back and do a part 2 in a couple of months. How's that?
Oh, okay, okay. Let me talk to my booking agent. Okay, can you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. So one of the things that is said about y'all's generation is that you're progressive in your political views and voting habits. Would you agree with that or no?
Me personally, yeah. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. But also, I think part of that too is like what my social identity is, and like again, I preface so much on being a global citizen, which inherently is a more democratic thing, or a more democratic view or standpoint or viewpoint. Um, and also, I'm just immersed more in community, so that in itself will make me more of a progressive person
Okay.
if I'm an active member of community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's a large part of it. It's just once you seek out community, then you want to, once you like sort of, yeah, once you seek out community or you sort of sought community,
Mm-hmm.
you fought for community and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully you brought community at the same time.
Okay.
So it's never me trying to think only as an individual. I think that's also just how I was raised, and also the environments that we've been in is to be communitarians to some degree
Okay.
and have community-based like ideas, ideologies, initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, part of that is like why I started Hollywood Pivot. Um,
Let's
but at the same
shout that
time,
out. Shout out to the Hollywood Pivot. I love it. And
oh,
you could just really quickly,
that's
babe.
okay.
I mean, again, you just mentioned it. So, again, shout out. Look it up online. Look it up on Instagram, Hollywood Pivot. Anyway, go ahead, love it. Go ahead.
You guys don't have to. So. Um,
Please and thank you.
but yeah,
Yes.
I think I'm more left leaning, but I also wish that the left could lean more towards me too.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, brother. Nothing wrong with that
Yeah.
at all. Yeah. Okay.
Outside of that, like, why am I more left leaning? Yeah,
No, you don't have to explain
I do
that.
think it has to do with like social responsibility
Okay.
and exercising your civil liberties.
That's fair.
And as someone who doesn't make much, I'm like the tax bracket. I'm not gonna benefit from
Mm-hmm.
the right side's tax
Mm-hmm.
bracket initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not.
Okay. That's fair.
So part of it is like meet me where I'm at.
Fair enough. Stephen, I'm going to jump to you. Progressive in your political views and voting habits. What do you think?
I do vote. Yes. In regards to politics, to be honest with you, I think all parties are bad, in my opinion.
Fair.
There's really nothing that benefits the people altogether completely. Everybody has their own agendas.
Sure.
The party does.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, you know what? If I vote, Democratic, okay, great. They do a few things more for us. If I vote Republican, it'd be the same. Literally,
Fair.
it's a double-edged sword in this case. Or
Fair.
triple
Yeah.
conservatives. But yeah, altogether though, I try to see who's a better party in that case. See
As you
who
should.
can benefit us as the
As
most.
you should. I mean,
That's
you
really
have that
what I
right.
do.
You absolutely have
Yeah,
that right, baby.
that's
Yep.
that's
If
about
I
it.
may go back into
You
it.
cannot.
I also really focus
You
on
cannot. Love
No,
it.
what's
no,
happening.
thank you.
You said
Why
you're
y'all
going to
gonna
jump in
shut me
7. You
out?
got to
You're
give
gonna
somebody else a
silence my
chance.
voice? Is that
Look,
what's happening on Facebook?
Yes.
you said you got to jump in 7. I got to give somebody else a chance. Chauncey, I'm going to go ahead and jump to you, brother, because Kenneth will keep going. So go ahead,
I
Chauncey.
didn't even get to. You know what? Go
Stop
ahead,
it.
Chauncey. I apologize. Go
I'll
ahead.
be quick. I was about to say I kind of lean more towards I vote for whoever kind of benefits my personal agenda. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not even most people like kind of assign themselves to a party. I don't even assign myself to a party. I vote for who I believe is the right person for me.
Yes.
So that's just kind
That's
of
fair.
how
Yeah.
I vote, and I feel like that's how everybody else should vote too. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just vote in that way.
Yep.
And then whatever happens, I'm not mad at either outcome because I'm like, well, this is the whole just the whole point of having a democratic process. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, again, going back just half a second, and again, let me just double check. Let me do a quick time check. Okay, so we got a few more minutes, but with that, Chauncey, I'm glad that you said that. I think that all of us agree. We all vote our conscience, and ultimately, that's what we're all saying. Doesn't matter what party it is that we're affiliated with. We really are voting our conscience based upon what our need is. So I absolutely agree with you. I actually agree with all of you.
Yeah.
Chuck, I'm gonna give you a minute because I know you just came back on camera. Anything that you'd like to add? Because I feel like with us and our generation, we were kind of told the what party that we should be affiliated with based upon our parents. One thing I will say, and maybe you can clear this up, Chuck, for you and your children, your 3 children. I told Stephen and Kenneth to vote their conscience. You don't have to vote who I vote for. Okay. They knew what party I maybe was affiliated with, but I could never forget having that conversation with Kenneth because he was heading to the polling and I was like, vote for whoever you want, not vote right or vote left, vote for who you want. Because really it's going to affect you more than it is me. But Chuck, what about you? What do you think?
No, I think you said it.
Fair.
No, I mean, I agree. And I also believe that that's influenced by how we were raised and how we grew up. So yeah. Again, just like I said, that the downside of the way we were raised was we were pretty much made to be very, 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 very independent, very being compliant. So that's how we were raised. And I think because of that, the backside of that, or the byproduct of that, was in our children, allowing them to have the freedom that we possibly perceived that we did not have.
Sure. That's fair. Okay. So as we are coming close to time, I think we've got time probably for one more thing. Again, I just want to remind everyone that this is the check-in. This is the monthly Facebook chat that me and my good friend Charlie Red have. Today we have the pleasure of being able to have guests, which would be the next generation. And in this case, the millennials have joined us today. To the bottom right, we have got our good friend Charlie Red, who's representing Generation X, along with myself, but with his son, Chauncey. Above him, or them, I should say, would be my oldest son, Stephen, and right below me is my youngest son, Kenneth. So we were really, really happy that the 3 of them have decided to join us this month. And I promise you, if you all don't mind, the 3 of you don't mind, we would love to have you come back in a few months and we can pick back up on a conversation to further, elaborate. Kenneth, I know there's more you'd like to be able to input, but to be able to further elaborate on some of your thoughts. Again, maybe sometime this fall, if that'd be okay, but we'll figure it out. But if you all don't mind, we'd love to have you all come back. With that, I'm going to pause for a second to ask, is there anything that the 3 of you would like to bring forth? Any topics that the 3 of you would like to be able to just kind of impart? I know you didn't know what we were going to talk about, and we do that on purpose, other than we have a blanket, what do you all like to see happen? But is there anything that you all would like to bring forth as a part of the conversation today? And I'll just kind of open it up to any one of you if you have any thoughts.
I got nothing at the moment. I do have to get going. That's why I was the first to go just now.
Okay. Well, my love, if you have to go, then again, we appreciate you. We love you. We will see you soon.
This has been
And
great.
again, thank you so much. Again, we'll do this again. So thank you. You got to go ahead and log off.
Right.
Then I will turn it over to
Take care, Mom.
Stephen and or Chauncey. You too, love.
Thank you.
Do you all have anything that you'd like to impart?
As of right now,
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not thinking of something later on though,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, that's fair. Chauncey, anything from you?
I was just gonna say, well, I know y'all are used to like working hard and everything. Do you guys feel like you get your flowers or you get your roses for being the foundation for our creativity or our being able to, take more risk in order to advance ourselves and our generations that come after us?
Okay.
Do you guys feel like you guys are acknowledged enough, or do you get your roses? Because I mean, like I said, where we live personally, the last lynching happened in 1970. And I know, you guys were alive during that time. So I think about those struggles that you guys had to go through too, which might have fueled the fire of, wanting or being able to delay the gratification that you kind of see because you saw the generations before you go through it. I wouldn't say in the same way, probably even worse. But yeah, just to keep it short, do you guys feel like that you get your recognition? Do you feel like you get your flowers, or do you even feel like that you need it?
Now, if you're asking me, that's one thing. If you're asking your dad, because I think he might answer differently than I would.
Just out there, whoever wants to
Okay.
answer first.
Let me have your dad start with that. That's a great question, though, Chauncey. So thank you for that. What you got, Chuck?
Do I feel like I get my flowers? No. But here's the thing: I don't need them.
That was going to be my answer, Chauncey. To be honest with you, yeah.
I mean, I bring it up to pretty much acknowledge the differences and the fact that the generation our kids were able to stand on what we were able to do, but also acknowledge what we were able to stand on for the people who were before us. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of, especially men, so this is really a men type of, I guess, focus, but I've been blessed to have had some real influential men in my life. So whether it go back to Russell, whether it go back to Alonzo Creighton, Willie King, George Moore, Mr. Harris, Mr. Smallwood, Jimmy Hearn. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Earl Coatney, again, Willie Louvert. I could spend the next 25, 30 minutes just calling off the names of these individuals who actually poured into me. So to answer your question, son, do I feel we get their flowers? No, but I don't need them.
Yeah.
I don't need them.
Yeah. Chauncey, I think as you asked that question, because I promise you, that's how I was literally going to. I'm sitting here thinking, I don't need them. I don't need the pomp and circumstance behind the things that I've done, because the things that I've done is by choice. And so I'm not looking at it, again, it's a byproduct of my upbringing. I'm looking at the long game and not the short. And I'm not concerned about living in this microwave society that we live in and getting that instant gratification, because that's not what I'm about. Stephen will sit here and tell you, or Kenneth when he was on here, but specifically Stephen will tell you that everything that I'm doing right now, all of the sidebar hustles, as I like to call it, that I do right now, it's in order for me to be able to retire in the next 15, 20 years in the manner in which I'm living right now. If I felt like, I'm sorry.
And not because we've had this conversation, and to pass it on to you guys.
Well, that was my next thing. To me, it's about generational wealth and anything that I can do to be able to help out my children in the grander scheme, because I've got 3 kids. I've got the 2 sons that are here, but I also have a daughter who lives in Virginia. So I may not have that retirement that we talked about that our grandparent or your grandparents had. I have a 401 that I lean in on that your grandparents didn't have the affordability to have, because I pay into it, and that's not enough to be able to retire on because of the world we live in, like you all were talking about pay-wise. It's not just exclusive to you, it's us too, right? So we have to have multiple streams of income to be able to afford ourselves an opportunity to be able to live this life that we're living right now in our prime. This is your dad and ours prime right now. But we know we want to retire in the next 15, 20 years. So we got to hustle our butts off right now to be able to do that, as well to be able to leave something for you all. So no, I'm not concerned about getting any flowers right now, because technically I've planted seeds in my children. The seed's been planted. We want to see you all succeed. So whatever we got to do, we'll do whatever that is. And Chauncey, you understand, you're a father. You can speak from that. You want to see your son succeed. You're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure he got everything he needs. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So hey, it's the same thing for us, brother. It's the same thing for us. And how we feel about it, I promise you, is how you're feeling. 1,000%. We're standing there with you. So
and Marcel just said that too. He said the flowers are our children. So,
I'm just saying it. Absolutely, absolutely. Marcel Baber, as one of our Rialto loved ones. Let me take a minute, if I could, to acknowledge everyone that has jumped online. And I know we've got some people that are watching right now. I know that we've got Larry Duncan, who's always one of our loved ones that jumps on. It looks like we had our sister Carlisa, our sister Angel, of course, DeRay and Ray Torres. We love seeing you all. Deb Lundgren. I apologize, Deb, for jacking your last name up like that. Rhonda James, it looks like. again, Phil Flores. So some of these names are some of our Rialto favorites and people that we went to school with, and we love you to death, as well as some people that we know in our adult lives. But as I mentioned before, this is the check-in. This is a monthly Facebook chat that my good friend Charlie Red and I have every first Saturday of the month, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. for our Pacific Coasters. This particular month, we had the pleasure of being able to have a conversation with the new generation, or the next generation, which in this case would be the millennials that are in our lives, because they're next up behind us, being Gen Xers. And the only thing that I can tell you is that this conversation has been very, very informative, not just for us, but hopefully for you all as well, because they are the next world changers. They're the ones that are going to influence what happens to us within the next 15, 20 years as we talk about maybe retiring as Generation Xers. So that being said, I'm going to actually give the last word to our millennials. Is there anything that you all would like to kind of have as a parting word before we jump off our call today? And we've got like a minute. So JoJo, well, no. Chauncey, we'll go with you. Age before, Chauncey, we'll go with you, and then we'll go with the old man here, Steve-O. What you got?
Well, like I said, I just appreciate being able to be a part of this. Some years ago, this wouldn't have even been possible. We would have all had to be in the same room or something like that. So the fact that we can all be in different locations and collaborate and talk about, generational things is really interesting. And I really appreciate the transparency that everybody gave today. There's really not any points that I want to add. I'm just looking forward to the next chat, because I feel like there's a lot more that we can talk about from generation to generation. And then I can kind of watch, as I'm watching my son grow up, he's Generation Alpha. Maybe he'll even be able to, well, he won't be able to give that much insight, but as I continue to be able to watch him to grow, maybe I can kind of put in some dimes from, the things I see about him too. And just, I just hope the generations of before us are proud of, what we're doing and what we're going to continue to do. And I'm proud of the generations before us for like laying the foundation and being able to let us dream, because that has afforded me a lot of happiness personally, to really believe that I can have an opportunity to make a living for myself, working for myself. And yeah, that's about it for
Come
me.
on now. I like it. What you got, JoJo?
With this conversation, perspective is key. Yeah. So it's good to realize exactly how you guys, view something as compared to what we view as our point of view. Very appreciative, of what you guys had said before, as us being the flowers itself, us being, the goal is make sure that we're okay.
Yeah.
We're the main points. So it's definitely good to recognize that, of course. That's really about it. I'm just very appreciative of the conversation we had today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Chuck, final thought.
Hey, it was good to see my godson. So that was the highlight of this conversation. Conversation was very inspiring, very thoughtful, very in depth. But again, to see their faces again, that warms me, and I appreciate you. So I'm good. Thank you.
My man, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Well, again, everybody, this is the check-in. I believe we are absolutely at time. I see our brother Derek Law join, our sister Marlene Black. We are so grateful to see each of you and everyone that has come in, that has kind of been interactive in our chat. Please continue to add your thoughts and such, because we will continue to interact with you. But this has been the check-in, or the check-in with, as we call it, for the month of January. We will have our upcoming check-in with, I don't know the topic off the top of my head in this moment, but I know we've already got a topic already established for the month of February. And as always, it's the first Saturday of every month at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific Coasters. Again, I'd like to thank our millennials that joined us. Chauncey, thank you, brother, so much. Appreciate you more than you know. To my love, thank you, JoJo. That's my twin. To my brother Chuck, always. Couldn't do this without you. So this is the check-in with y'all. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Can I throw in a couple more names?
Absolutely.
Fred Smith, Mel Henry, Chuck Singleton.
Yes.
Percy Harper.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Goes on and on.
All right now. We'll see you soon.